Hey everyone, it's Jennifer. Welcome if you are new, and welcome back if you are returning to my channel. So today we are going to be talking about something I've wanted to personally talk about for a while, but I want to make sure that I was able to do this video justice before I start talking about it, and that is how I would change Delphini from the Cursed Child. So I want to put in a disclaimer right now about what I'm about to say. I'm throwing no shade at anyone. I'm not throwing any shade at J.K. Rowling, not throwing any shade at anyone who's taken part in Cursed Child or anyone who's been in the Harry Potter series. I want to put that disclaimer out there. And also, there are Cursed Child spoilers and just Harry Potter spoilers in general. So proceed with caution if you haven't finished the series or you haven't seen the play or read the book. So there are major plot spoilers, and I just want to let people know this right out of the gate so I don't spoil major plot points for you. With that in mind, let's move on to all the other points I have going on here. So my problem with Delphini came out of a place of there aren't a lot of curly, like frizzy-haired girls in media, and especially ones that look like me. And that's always kind of like hurt my self-esteem. It's been hard for me. It's also given me a lot of unrealistic beauty expectations and kind of told me I was ugly. I mean, when I think about it, the young girls who you would see with frizzy hair were always the weird friend, or, you know, Mia from Princess Diaries was considered ugly when she had curly hair and wasn't pretty till she had like straight, perfect, sleek hair that you could brush. And, you know, that hurt my self-esteem a little bit though. And so I was really excited when I was reading the Harry Potter series for the first time because, you know, Hermione's described as having like really frizzy, uncontrollable, curly hair. And so I think a lot of people, including myself, were expecting someone with more the typical curly hair. And don't get me wrong, I love Emma Watson. I think she's great. I think she did an amazing job in the role. I just wish they would have either continued with the frizzy wig or cast a curly actress. So yeah, that hurt me though, because even now I see when people cosplay as Hermione, they either just use straight hair almost, or they like put some braids in and they're like, oh yeah, I have Hermione's hair now. And I'm like, I mean, you do. And so yeah, that was not good for me growing up. And then the only characters we did get were older or from the 80s, or, you know, there just really isn't that much. We get Mother Gothel, great, love that. I get Miss Frizzle, great. I get Matilda's mom, okay. And so I think this just proves my point of there's not really any young characters who have curly hair or look like me. And I just don't like that. And so we did get someone in Harry Potter though. But we got Bellatrix when she was older, after Azkaban, and was like haggard. And I think Helena Bonham Carter is absolutely gorgeous. Do not get me wrong here. But that character was not made to be pretty anymore. That character, by the time we meet her in this series, she's supposed to be like old and haggard. So she wasn't meant to be pretty. And so that just adds on to that stereotype of, well, if you have curly hair, you have to be old and haggard and ugly. And I'm not too happy about that. So yeah, I mean, I think Harry Potter could have given us a really good character that would help the community, and all we got was hurting the community more. And again, I'm not a fan of that. The 2000s were just terrible for anyone who had curly hair because like sleek straight hair was really in style. So having natural curly hair was just terrible. And so on that, I was hoping when they cast Cursed Child, they would give us someone with curly hair. And they did. You know, we got a person of color, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. I think it is fantastic that we got a person of color, but it's still like, you know, if you're light skinned with curly hair, you're weird, because apparently there's no characters who can look like you, which is just still a fun place to be in. And so, you know, I was upset about that for a bit too, and I shouldn't have been. Like, that was weird. Honestly, I don't know why I was. We really do need more representation for people of color and like Caucasian people. I mean, we already have so much representation. But, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, why does Delphini have straight light hair? That makes no sense. Because even if her father's dark magic screwed up her biology enough, I mean, biologically speaking, her parents couldn't have had a straight blonde-haired kid. I mean, don't get me wrong, enough people are mad enough that it is a plot hole that Bellatrix and Voldemort apparently had a kid, and so that's enough of a plot hole in itself. But I'm just going to go further into why it's a plot hole. So hopefully I'll have pictures of what Bellatrix and young Tom Riddle look like here. They are both dark-haired, dark eyes, pale skin, but even young Voldemort has wavy hair and Bellatrix has curly hair. It is almost biologically impossible that they could have a kid that looked like Delphini, even with all the dark magic. No one wanted this. No one wanted this. And so I went myself and changed how she looked. So now she looks like this. But the question would be, well, Jennifer, do you just want to completely switch out Delphini and Cursed Child? And to that I say, no. There's a way you can keep this and this in Cursed Child, and it works. So here's how that would happen. As we all know, Cursed Child has just decided it's going to use whatever it wants to use. Time Terminators come back, Cedric Diggory comes back. Apparently nothing's off the table for Cursed Child. So I don't know how far of a leap it would be that Delphini is a Metamorphagus. I'm just going to put it out there. She's a Metamorphagus. And so that's not a stretch because her mother, Bellatrix, is one of the three Black Sisters, which is Andromeda, Narcissa, and Bellatrix. And so they're the three Black Sisters. And who's Delphini's cousin? Nymphadora Tonks. And that is the only Metamorphagus we know. So would it be a far stretch that Delphini, born of two very powerful wizards, is a Metamorphagus? No. I think that would be perfectly reasonable, that Delphini would be a Metamorphagus. And so, when she goes to disguise herself as a Diggory, she would make herself blonde-haired and blue-eyed, because from what we see, the Diggories, you know, Cedric doesn't have exactly blonde hair, but he has green eyes and light brown hair, so they would have lighter features. Also, she would want to look as far away from her natural appearance as possible, because if you had someone running around who looked like a mini version of Bellatrix, I think that'd freak a lot of people out and you wouldn't be trusted. So, putting herself as far away from looking like her parents as possible would be smart. So that's why I think Delphini would disguise herself. And so while she's convincing Albus and Scorpius to go along with her plan and all of that, you would use one actress who would only play what I have termed Delphini Diggery, specifically Delphini Diggery. So you would use one actress for that. And so she would play all the parts, and I believe I've marked it up into like halfway through Act 3 in Cursed Child. So it's in part 2, but it's in Act 3. So it's like Act 1 of part 2, but it's really like Act 3 of the show. It's hard to explain because it's one cohesive thing, but also two separate plays. But there's a point where Scorpius basically figures out, oh, you were the augury in the other world. And at that point, Delphini just throws everything out the window and is like, yeah, that was me. I'm her. Now we're going to bring my dad back. Let's go. And I think it would make that moment so much more powerful if all of a sudden she changes into her actual appearance, which is like, you know, big dark hair with like silver streaks, kind of, so you have some of the dark magic from her dad that like came through in her physical appearance, and you just see her transform in front of you, and that would be amazing, and it would bring it visually so much more to the show. I think even that it would show like a true change in her, and it would be really scary when Ron, Hermione, Draco, and Harry all see this mini version of Bellatrix walking around. Imagine being on Hogwarts also when she walks in, seeing a mini version of Bellatrix walking around. It would be scary. Yeah. So I think it would bring so much more to the other characters too, to make her look like her parents. But to do this, you would have to have two actresses because that change would have to occur in that scene. And unlike film, where you can, you know, do all the stuff in editing, live theater is live. So you have to do everything in the moment. And this play already does utilize something that they could use here too. And that's using special effects to change out the actors when they use the polyjuice potion. And I think you could use that same sort of tactic to switch out the Delphinis here. And this would be too quick for a quick change though. So you would have to have two actresses playing this character because you could not quick change this change because it would be in the middle of a scene. It would be just like when they do the polyjuice potion, and obviously they use different actors and actresses for that. So yes, this is why you would now have to have a Delphini Diggery and a Delphini Riddle. Delphini Diggery, Delphini Riddle. Two different actresses. And I think, again, it would just bring so much more. And where it would bring more with the other characters is, first of all, I think we all seem to forget that Bellatrix is Draco's aunt. And so we all know that Draco would immediately recognize her. And he lived with the Dark Lord in constant fear, lived with his aunt, so that's how it would affect Draco more. Harry. Harry had his parents killed by Voldemort, and then his godfather was killed by Bellatrix. So Bellatrix killed Sirius. And so, yeah, you want to talk about things. That's kind of where this would affect Harry more. Let's go to Hermione. Did we all forget that scene in Deathly Hallows? Because I don't think I ever can. The scene that was so graphic that they had to edit it because it would have made the movie rated R when Bellatrix tortured Hermione. you want to talk about who would be the most spooked when she walked in, probably be Hermione. And then I'm going to categorize Ron and Ginny together for all intensive purposes in this, because they're technically probably the least affected by Bellatrix. But like, Bellatrix did try to kill Ginny, and it was their mom who killed her, which also would make it so much cooler that they were part of bringing her daughter down. So that's kind of where I think it would help the character's storyline so much more. What I also would like to see happen more is, I wish we got a little more into her backstory, because, and I'll go more in depth on this another time, but her storyline very much parallels the storyline of Harry Potter. She is orphaned as a baby, never really knows her parents. She's raised by someone who doesn't want to raise her, resents her, and is basically at the best neglectful to her, and is probably abusive, which is very similar to the upbringing that Harry has. And so we do go back into Harry's childhood a lot in Cursed Child, and I wish when they were doing that they would also kind of in the back have, kind of in a corner, Delphini's childhood, and they have Lily in there for like 2 seconds. Use the same actress who plays Lily Luna, throw a wig on her, and you can have her play young Delphini Riddle too. And so I think that would be a lot cooler also to see how there's so many parallels between Harry's childhood and Delphini's. And there's just so much you can do there. But this is like very surface level, my motivation behind it and how it would fit in. But I'll definitely go more in depth later. But I don't want to be here talking forever, and I don't think you guys want to watch a 50-minute video. So we're going to stop this here and table all the other discussions for another day. But this is very baseline, my motivation behind changing her, why I did it, and how it would fit in with the way Cursed Child is currently done. So, and if you would like to see more of it, you can go to my TikTok in the description, and I do post cosplay TikToks as Delphini Riddle. And so, yeah, I think it would be fun if you want to see it. But that's all for today.